All right, so Gary Gensler labels Bitcoin a commodity as crypto prices stabilize. This is from Market Watch. Um, Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Gary Gensler said Monday Bitcoin was the only cryptocurrency he was prepared to label a commodity rather than a security in an interview by CNBC. So this is very important for the crypto space, like very important, and I'm surprised there's not more people talking about this. And why is that? Is because commodities and securities are regulated in very different ways. Now, I'm not an expert in that kind of stuff, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But the one thing that is good news and bad news, depending on how you look at it. The good news is that um, Bitcoin being labeled a commodity is very good news for Bitcoin because securities typically are regulated in a more harsh, for lack of a better way or a better word, way. Um, Securities are typically things that are issued, right? I mean, and for the simple reason being, I mean, a better way of putting it is to take a step back. When people hear cryptocurrencies, there's a lot of people that lump them in all together, and it shows that they're either trying to mislead people or they don't understand cryptocurrencies simply because they're not all the same. In fact, they're very, 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 very different. I mean, even amongst the top end coins, right? I mean, a lot of these coins with very low market caps, again, I'll just put it plain and simple. 99.9% of cryptos are absolutely worthless, like absolutely and utterly worthless. Again, just because they're faster than Bitcoin doesn't mean anything, right? It doesn't mean anything. That's kind of the claim to fame of a lot of these. Um, just because they say they're decentralized doesn't mean anything, right? And here's the way you know. I mean, there's basically two ways to know if a crypto truly is good, for lack of a better way of putting it. Number one, it's decentralized, and when I see decentralized, not them saying that it's decentralized, I mean it truly is. I mean, Ethereum says they're decentralized, but at the end of the day, they're not. Cardano says they're decentralized, but they're not, right? They're coins that have been issued by, I mean, they have people that literally run the coin, basically, right? I mean, Hodgkinson basically calls the shots, or a lot of the shots, with Cardano. Vitalik does with Ethereum. I mean, Solana is another popular one that is even more centralized. And the way you know too is simply look at the amount of coins when they were issued. What percentage of them were issued to VCs, or venture capitalists, right? Bitcoin, it was none of them, right? I mean, Satoshi did mine the first million coins, but those coins have never been moved. And even if they have been moved, it still doesn't prove that it's not decentralized, right? And the other way you know too is that, let's just say the government decides to sue them. Do they have a corporation or an individual or both that they could go after? I mean, this is what XRP, they're going to be the this world reserve currency, but it's like, no, you're not. Like, if you can be sued, then you're not going to be the world's reserve currency, right? Because you issued unregistered securities, right? Um, and again, I'm not big on a lot of these regulations, but if it was up to me, there wouldn't be these regulations. But the reality of it is, there almost certainly is going to be these regulations going forward. Meaning, the only cryptocurrencies that are actually going to survive are the ones that are truly decentralized. Being Bitcoin is the only one that you can, beyond the shadow of a doubt, says falls into that category. Maybe Monero, I think probably there's a good argument could fall into that as well. Um, Maybe Pirate Chain, although they are somewhat centralized, you know. But again, I'm not an expert on them as much. I think Monero, you can make a pretty good argument, but Bitcoin's the only one for sure. And the other thing too, the crypto space follows Bitcoin. I mean, let's just be very clear about it. It's been like that for over a decade. Anyone saying Bitcoin's going to zero, but this crypto is going up, like over the long run, very unlikely that's going to happen. And they're probably just, maybe not necessarily scamming you, but they're lying or they're misleading you. And there's some people that I respect that do this kind of stuff too, which I really don't like. But I won't name names, but I'm sure you can figure out who I'm talking about if you follow some of these people. But the main point of this is, over the long run, Bitcoin's the only crypto that I'm confident in over the long run. I think Ethereum has enough of a moat, which again, it's not a true moat, but their market cap is just big enough that Ethereum probably always will be around, at least for the foreseeable future. But aside from that, I don't know if there's any of them. Like Cardano, Hodgkinson seems to have, enough of a grip on the space that probably will be around. There will always be a demand for Monero simply based on its privacy aspects. Pirate Chain's a little bit more advanced than Monero, but Monero is a much larger market cap. But those are the only ones. Like those are the only ones, right? Bitcoin's the only one that I would be very confident in saying. Monero would be the next most confident, but the problem with Monero is that a lot of people hold Monero simply to make private transactions, right? A lot of people, they simply, when they want to actually transact, they'll use atomic swaps, transition from Bitcoin or whatever other crypto into Monero, make the transaction. So I don't think as many people are actually going to hold Monero over the long run, right? So again, Bitcoin is the only one, and with the Lightning Network coming online or gaining traction, the whole Bitcoin's not can't handle enough transaction argument is going to go away. Like it's going to go away, and that was the only legitimate argument against Bitcoin, right, in the past, and it probably already is not a good argument against it. So that's what I would say. But again, this is very important, right? In that my hypothesis of number one, people that label all cryptos as being one and of the same. Again, they're either lying to you or they don't know what they're talking about. This is something that a lot of mainstream institutional kind of people do. I think it's partially due to the fact that whether it's intentional or unintentional or conscious or unconscious, again, every dollar that gets put into Bitcoin is money that could otherwise be put into mutual funds, ETFs, bonds, real estate, et cetera, right? And these people that make their money based upon money going into, or at the very least staying in stocks, ETFs, bonds, real estate, mutual funds, et cetera, that's money that otherwise could be in their pocket. So this is the reason why you have to be very skeptical about these institutional people that are giving advice. Not that you take anyone's word 100%. In my opinion, you should simply take the people who've been right the most, right? And again, um, I mean, if you take someone like Peter Schiff, too, he's a good example of this. You know, depending on how you look at it, he's been right, but he's also been incredibly wrong about Bitcoin. I mean, he's been bearish on Bitcoin for 10 years. I mean, he wrote an article when it was like $200 that it's tulip mania. So again, you also have to take into account people's timelines on this. When have they been bearish? Have they been bullish? Like you have to take into account the timelines too, because there's one person I listened to that you know they didn't talk about crypto up until like basically when it started falling. Then all of a sudden they started talking about, oh, it's so risky, it's getting hammered, but all this, but it's like you completely ignored it for the prior year, right? So that's something that I just don't like when people do that. And again, you have to take what everybody's saying with a grain of salt, obviously me included. Again, do your own research, all this kind of stuff. But I wanted to point this out because my long-term outlet is Bitcoin is going to beat the market. Bitcoin's going to beat inflation, probably by quite a bit. And it is the only crypto that has a label that is going to be very valuable in the future because it won't be able to be regulated in the way that virtually every other one will be. So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, hit that like and subscribe and stay tuned for more.